I'm going to address this before I start ranting because I know I'm going to get bombarded with questions if I don't say it now. What I'm playing for this demonstration is an English translation patch of the Japanese version. This is not, nor is it the same as the English version. And since this video is going up within a week relative to the time the game is going to be coming out in English, I shouldn't have to deal with questions regarding where to get a ROM or where to find a patch or any of that nonsense. If you like what you see, support the developer, go out and buy the game when it comes out in English, like I'm intending to do. And now that we've got that out of the way, hello guys, this is UniversalGiant, and let's rant about Pokemon Black and White once we're done playing with our Wii here. There's a lot I have to say about this game. I don't know how long it's going to take, and I know for a fact I'm going to forget about certain things, but let's give it a shot. Pokemon Black and White is the 5th generation of Pokemon games out there now. Second one for the DS. And there's quite a bit to talk about. For those of you wondering if this game is going to be any different structurally compared to the other 4 generations, it's not. You still have the 8-gym system where you travel across the continent, which I'll show you that right now. I'll show you the map. You travel across the Unova region here, going in this direction, and you collect 8 gym badges from 8 gym leaders, each of which specialize in a certain type of Pokemon. Once you get all 8 badges from all of these cities, of course you have plenty of things to do in between, but you work your way up through Victory Road and eventually to the Pokemon League, where you fight the Elite Four and eventually become champion of the region. Of course, all along you're going to be competing with some strange organization that has their own weird thing that they like to do with Pokemon, but unlike all of the other previous generations, this one involves actually fighting an organization with benevolent goals. Team Plasma is the group that you're going to be fighting against in this generation, and their objective is to, surprisingly enough, free Pokemon. They're not looking to take over the world, they're not looking to destroy the world. They're just out for Pokemon, and they want to free the Pokemon from their human captors. And if you step back and think about it, that's not a very strange thing to ask. In fact, there's one character specifically that's going to be dealing with this dilemma a bit more than any of the others are. He has green hair, and you'll run into him at multiple points in the game. And, you know what, it's pretty much your role in his story is to, I guess, get him to change his ways. I don't want to get into any plot spoilers because this game has surprisingly good plot development and character development that I don't want to spoil. Unlike most of the other Pokemon games, this one actually has a very good plot, a surprisingly good one at that. In fact, the ending of this game is so spectacular that I don't want to spoil it, nor do I want anybody to look it up if you intend to get this game. It's much more exciting for you to discover the plot on your own, which is why I didn't post anything after the Elite Four when I did this in Japanese. Yeah, for those that don't know, I did play through the Japanese version, which is why you see all these level 70 Pokemon that I'm boasting here. I had the opportunity to play through it in the fall, and not explaining anything here. There are a lot of obvious changes with regards to the 5th generation. Most of them should be pretty apparent from what I've shown you already. The graphics are probably the most heralded step up from the previous generations. They included a lot of 3D effects, most of which are pretty minor, but they are significant steps up, and I like how they don't overdo the 3D effects. If this is the first time you've seen them, then you're probably blown away by the changing cameras, the moving sprites on the screen with the battle here. You do get used to it after a while. It isn't dizzying or anything, which is why I particularly like how they did it. But you can tell, even walking into a building, the zooming in effect of the camera, I think it's really neat how they do that. You'll also find as you walk around these different areas that you're not going to encounter any Pokemon from previous generations. The 5th gen is entirely new Pokemon, at least until you get past the Elite Four the first time. So new players as well as old players will be able to, they'll be on the same page here. If you've never played a Pokemon game before, you don't have to memorize the first 493 in order to maintain pace with everybody that's already encountered them all. Everybody's in the same boat here. I also like what they did in this generation relative to difficulty. If you've played the older generations and you have an idea as to what's coming or what to do, then a lot of the early game is extremely easy. As in, you don't really have to experience grind or anything, and you can just blow right through the region without any real difficulty. But they did a couple of things to step up the difficulty in this generation, which I like. The first thing is that most of the trainers you'll encounter here are about 2 or 3 levels above where they would be in previous generations. And that may sound a little bit intimidating, but at no point did I personally feel that I was too low with experience to have to stop and grind. Maybe 1 or 2 times, like before the first gym or before the Elite Four, but even then, not very much. And something else that they did to discourage you from grinding for experience in these patches of grass here is that depending on what your level is, you won't get as much experience as you level up. So see, we have a P-Dove over here, and I'm 60 levels above it, so if I decide to mercilessly slaughter this thing, quick attack! You'd normally get, if you're about the level which you should be here, maybe 12 to 15, you'd get a lot more experience than 10. But they do level down the amount of experience you get for battles as you level up, encouraging you to move on, which adds to the challenge a little bit, which I like. Now, getting into the battle-specific changes, you can tell all the sprites are moving, they aren't static sprites, so you see Salsa doing his little dance in the foreground here, and you see the Timber over there playing with the board of wood, or whatever it is he's carrying over there. Everybody has their own unique animations, and if you let the battle stay idle long enough, the camera will start moving around also, and the camera likes to change depending on who's attacking, or if you're in a double or triple battle, it'll change depending on who you're controlling or what moves you're going to be using. And I don't know if this is going to come up in the recording or not, but there are stereo sound effects, so if somebody attacks your character, you'll hear it from the left speaker, and if you attack the opponent, you'll hear it through the right speaker. And something else I'd like to show off, which I'll have to do by switching characters, is that in battle they have in-battle ability warnings. So say the Pokemon I have in the front right now has Mold Breaker, and at the beginning of the battle, the opponent has to be warned of the Mold Breaker. So when I send in Drago here, a pop-up on the screen will say that he has Mold Breaker, and that appears for a bunch of different abilities, depending on when it's activated in the battle. Also, if your Pokemon get any sort of status infliction, like paralysis or poison, then the character will flash that color on the screen. So if it's poisoned, it'll start flashing purple. If it's paralyzed, it'll flash yellow. If it's burned, it'll flash red. And if it's asleep, there are actually sleep animations where the Pokemon closes its eyes, which is also a nice touch. A lot of the little things they did in this game. Attention to detail. Also, weather effects, you see them once at the beginning of the battle or whenever the weather effect is first brought into play, and you don't have to deal with the animation for it at the end of every turn like you did in previous generations. Instead, it just stays as a little static indicator at the bottom of the screen. I already touched on the plot. There are seasons in this game. In addition to time passing, you can see it's pretty much dusk over here. Oh, I love this bridge. I want to stop talking just to get to that point, but... Yeah, there are seasons incorporated in this game. So, they change every month. February, right now, where I'm recording this, is summer. March is going to be fall. I don't know if they'll change that in the English version, but that's at least what it is in the Japanese. And it alternates every month. Now, remember when I talked about 3D effects? This is probably my favorite use of those effects. Sky Hour Bridge, when you cross over to Castelia City. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They don't use, you know, jaw-dropping 3D effects very often, but when they do, it really is jaw-dropping. This is probably my favorite walk in the entire game. Lagging a little bit, but nonetheless, it's still fantastic to watch. In addition to the original rival that you would always start with in one of the first 4 generations, you'd have one rival, or yeah, maybe 1.5, depending on who you want to consider a rival or not. But in this game, you have 2 legitimate friendly rivals. The first one, the girl, is named Bianca, and the second one, the male, is named Sharon, or Sharon. I hope I'm pronouncing these all correctly. But yeah, this is Castelia City, my favorite. A lot of moves in this game have been updated. I'm not just talking about additional moves or additional abilities, which of course exist, but some of the older ones have been upgraded as well. So veterans may want to check those out. But the most important for me is probably one of the least significant moves, which is Tackle. In the old generations, Tackle had a base power of 35 and 95 accuracy. It was the default attacking move at the very beginning for any Pokemon as they're, you know, first starting out. Low-level Pokemon will have one attacking move, and most of them, that'll be Tackle. And to have the base power for that increased by almost 50% makes a lot of the early game battles go faster. And it may not sound like much, but believe me, it shortens some of the early battles by 2 or 3 turns apiece, and that really saves on time. TMs in this game are now unlimited. You heard me right. You can use a technical machine as many times as you like, and it will never disappear from your inventory. It may make a couple of the TMs that you buy pretty expensive, but once you buy them once, you never have to get them again, which is fantastic. If you... Look, specifically for me, in the Elite Four, where you can challenge them in any order, what I like to do is alternate between moves. So if I have one TM that's good against one member, I'll use that and then switch over to another one between battles. And of course, that also means you can teach the move to more than one Pokemon at a time. So it's not just HMs that are unlimited, TMs are also unlimited in this game. And another little thing that I like is the quick selection menu, where before you could only register up to 1 or 2 items. Here you have a little menu of them, and I don't know what the maximum limit is. These are just the 5 things I like to have on most often. But being able to access a couple of items at once is nice. And the dowsing machine, which you use to find hidden items, you can see on the bottom screen there, the touch screen. Those little rods will point in the direction of hidden items, if any exist, although I found just about all of them. You don't have to hold down a button or keep the touchpad depressed or anything. It just goes on its own, which is nice. And it stays there between screens as well, so you can just leave it alone for most of the time. Some new mechanics that were introduced in this generation, hopefully I'll show them off here. Yeah, see the little shaking grass on the bottom square to me right now? If we step into it, we'll find that it's a rare Pokemon. It's one that you don't see very often. Of course, you will find this in most shaking grasses, so it's rare, but it's not too rare. And you'll find that in anywhere you can find wild Pokemon. You can find in the water maybe a Pokemon will be sticking its head out. In the caves, you'll find a swirling cloud of sand. There are a number of different ways that the rare Pokemon appear, and if you use a repel, you'll repel everything but the rare Pokemon, so you can head straight over to that square without a worry. Which is also very nice. I want to show off one more thing relative to the battles, so let me fly over to an area that I know has this specific type of grass I'm looking for. It was early on before. And now you get to see the fly animation. Pretty nifty.